All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We are hacking into the Pentagon's own cyber warfare playbook. We've got our hands on an unclassified Air Force training manual, and it's our guide to uncovering how the world's most powerful military is fighting a war you literally can't see, a war that is happening right now, all around us.
So let's start with a big question, a kind of chilling one, really. Because in the digital world, there's this constant, low-grade conflict that's already happening. This isn't a war fought with bombs and bullets, no. It's fought with bits and bytes. It's a battle for information, for control of our infrastructure, and for influence. Okay, let's dive in.
So before we can even get to the tactics, the strategies, the players, all that stuff, we have to map out the battlefield. And you have to understand, to the military, cyberspace isn't just the internet. No way. It's a formal domain of war, just as real and strategic as land, sea, air, and yep, even space.
Now, I know this looks like some super dense military jargon, right? But stick with me, because this official definition is absolutely crucial. It basically establishes cyberspace as a man-made operational environment. It's the where of this new kind of war, a tangible place that includes everything from the giant fiber optic cables running along the ocean floor all the way to the data that's stored right there on your phone.
So, to make this really abstract space a little more concrete, military planners have broken it down into 3 distinct layers. Thinking about it this way is really the key to understanding how an attack actually works, and more importantly, where you need to build up your defenses.
Okay, so it all starts with the physical layer. I mean, this is the hardware you can actually touch. The servers, the cables, the routers. Sitting on top of that is the logical layer, which is all about how the data is connected and organized. And then finally, you have the cyber persona layer. And guess what? That's us, that's you, it's our digital identities, our online accounts. A really sophisticated attack can hit any or even all of these layers at the exact same time.
So, we've defined the battlefield. Now let's get into the good stuff, the playbook. How exactly does the U.S. organize its forces to fight and win in this completely new digital domain? The entire U.S. strategy really boils down to 3 core missions. First, you've got offense, what they call OCO. This is all about projecting power, taking the fight to the enemy. Then, of course, you have defense, or DCO, which is focused on protecting our own networks. And the third piece, DoD operations, is kind of the foundational work, just building, maintaining, and securing the entire global military network. This slide just lays it out perfectly. It's the 2 sides of the same coin, right? Think of offensive cyber ops like a digital stealth bomber. It's projecting power, striking targets quietly. Defensive cyber ops, on the other hand, is the high-tech fortress, a massive shield protecting our most critical networks from attack. One is the spear, the other is the shield. Simple as that.
And if you're not convinced just how critical this is, listen to this quote from a top general. Cyber isn't just part of the military anymore. It's become the central nervous system. Every single thing, every jet, every satellite, every weapon system, it all depends on it. If that system fails, the entire warfighting machine can literally grind to a halt. But let's be real, the US isn't playing this game alone, not by a long shot. There are other global powers out there, and they are aggressively using cyberspace to challenge American interests. So let's take a look at the main adversaries, as identified in the Pentagon's own briefing materials.
Yeah, so you can just throw out that old image of some lone hacker in a dark basement. That is not what we're talking about here. We are talking about highly sophisticated, extremely well-funded arms of foreign governments. These guys operate with strategic purpose, developing new digital weapons to achieve their geopolitical goals, all from the shadows of the internet.
What's really fascinating is that each of these adversaries has their own unique style, their own playbook that really reflects their bigger national strategy. Russia, for instance, uses hybrid warfare, mixing cyberattacks with disinformation to destabilize their rivals from the inside out. China is playing the long game with unrestricted warfare, focusing on massive economic espionage, basically stealing intellectual property to fuel its own growth. And then you have nations like Iran and North Korea who use asymmetric tactics. These are cheaper but really disruptive cyber attacks that let them punch way above their weight on the global stage.
Okay, so you might be listening to all this and thinking, well, that's interesting, but it's all happening in some classified server deep inside a military bunker far away from me. But here's the twist. The training manual makes one thing startlingly clear. The front line of this new war, it runs right through your living room.
And that's the scary part. That's exactly why you are a target. Your computer, your phone, your smart TV, your doorbell, they are all incredibly valuable territory in this fight.
Adversaries infect millions of these devices to create what are called botnet armies for launching massive attacks. Or, even scarier, they'll use your device as a secret stepping stone to get inside a much more secure corporate or government network.
So what's going through an attacker's mind? How do they even pick their targets? Well, it's not random. It really comes down to a simple calculation. First, do they have the opportunity? Is there a vulnerability they can exploit? Second, do they have the motive? Is the reward worth the risk of getting caught? And finally, do they have the means, the right tools and skills to actually pull it off? As a defender, your entire job is to break that chain by taking away at least one of those things.
Which, of course, brings us to the most important question, the one that really matters to us all, right? What can you actually do? How does an ordinary person defend themselves in the middle of a global cyber conflict? And you know what? The manual actually gives some pretty clear, practical advice that works for all of us. Encrypt your sensitive data. Seriously. Use a VPN to put a shield around your online activity. And maybe most important of all, just be vigilant. That suspicious email or that weird link you got, it might not just be annoying spam. It could be the first probe of a state-sponsored attack, and they're using you as the entry point.
I want to leave you with this one last thing. It's a quote that the Air Force itself puts in its own training materials, and honestly, it's pretty heavy. It's a stark reminder that in this digital age, there really isn't a clear line anymore between the home front and the front line. This invisible battlefield is literally everywhere, and whether we like it or not, we are all on it.